Tonight, the ringleader of one of the largest art forgeries in Canadian history is sentenced.
This historic purchase will also strengthen our connection to our culture, traditions, and ancestors.
A First Nation in the Yukon is investing in a new business.
I watch these other people that I'm competing against that are older and better and stronger, and I kind of watch them to see what I can do better.
And athletes north of 60 are training hard for the upcoming Arctic Winter Games.
Tache and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Jonesa. A 14-year-old Indigenous girl has been identified as the victim of a fatal stabbing in downtown Winnipeg. Police say they are searching for 3 people in connection with the death. Tamara Pimentel has more.
Police were called to this scene in downtown Winnipeg at 1 p.m. on Friday for a report of a female who had been stabbed. Police aren't releasing the victim's name, but identified her as a 14-year-old Indigenous girl. Officers provided emergency medical care. Before an ambulance arrived, she was rushed to hospital where she later died. Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smythe says it is believed a possible suspect fled the scene before police arrived.
So we know the victim was with a group of other young people shortly before she was attacked. One of the young people she was with suddenly turned on her and stabbed her.
Police are looking for a male suspect and 2 young female witnesses. Smythe says they might also be youth and can't be identified. The victim has been reported missing in the past, but was not missing when she was killed. A vigil will be held Monday evening in support of the girl's family and friends. Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
First Nations leaders in Northern Ontario are questioning the reporting process for missing persons in the city of Thunder Bay. 14-year-old Mackenzie Nathan Manias was last seen on December 13th in the city. According to a press release from Anishinaabe Aski Nation and Nishkantaga First Nation, her body was discovered today near the waterfront. Thunder Bay Police had been holding a scene there since Saturday. NAN and Nishkantaga leadership say they do not yet fully understand the circumstances regarding this tragic passing and have many questions. In a statement, they say they are extremely concerned that gaps in the process for reporting missing persons identified through the 7 youth inquest are apparently still at play when Indigenous youth are reported missing. In Thunder Bay, Ontario, a man who pleaded guilty to 2 charges in connection with a major art fraud is going to jail. Gary Lamont is one of 8 people accused in the Norval-Morrisseau art fraud ring. It's been called one of the largest forgeries in history. The investigation looked into fake artworks claimed to be done by Morrisseau, with Anishinaabe painter known for helping establish the Woodland School of Art. Police seized more than 1,000 counterfeit works. Lamont pleaded guilty to 1 count of forgery and 1 count of defrauding the public above $5,000. He was sentenced to 5 years in jail on Friday. He will get 1 year's credit for time already served. Parks Canada says increased consultation with Inuit is high priority in its updated management plan for one of the most remote national parks in Canada. The Kitunapak National Park Plan is located on northwest Ellesmere Island. How the park is run is reviewed every 10 years. The new plan was tabled in Parliament on December 12th. Some new objectives are increased Inuit involvement in the management of the park itself and ongoing collaboration between governments, businesses, and Inuit groups on conservation and research. The discovery of an intact woolly mammoth baby near Dawson City, Yukon last year caused a stir worldwide. Affectionately dubbed Noon Chuga, or Big Animal Baby, by the Trondeck Gwich'in First Nation, scientists say it's the first whole baby mammoth found in North America, and only the 2nd in the world. Now the Trondeck Gwich'in and Yukon government are planning the next step for the incredible animal's care. Sarah Connors gives us an update.
The body of little Nunchaga, who's been kept in a walk-in freezer since its discovery in 2022, may soon be moving to a new location, at least temporarily. The governments caring for Nunchaga have applied to send the animal to the Canadian Conservation Institute in Ottawa. The Federal Institute promotes Canada's heritage collections through its expertise in science, treatment, and preventative conservation. The plan is for the mammoth's body to be preserved through freeze drying, a process that will take 1 to 2 years to complete. Nunchaga will then be returned back to the Trondheim in Dawson City. The First Nation says it may house Nunchaga at its new heritage complex. However, out of respect for the animal, it won't be on public display. The government say they should have an answer from the Institute by the end of the year. If approved, a delegation of elders, First Nations representatives, and government officials will accompany Nunchaga on its journey to Ottawa. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
The Kwanlin Dun First Nation in Whitehorse, Yukon is investing in a new business venture. They just bought themselves a wilderness ranch. The First Nation in Whitehorse bought the Sky High Wilderness Ranch on Friday. It says the $3.5 million price tag will be money well spent. The 60-acre ranch is 30 minutes outside Whitehorse on the First Nation's traditional territory. Dog sled adventures, horse rides, and overnight cabin and lodge stays are offered. Chief Smith says it will be business as usual until more cultural experiences are added to the activities.
Strengthen our connection to our culture, traditions, and ancestors. Kwanlin Dun First Nation has created opportunities for citizens to experience time on the land and to learn land-based activities that connect people, place, and culture.
Time to take a short break. More stories to come when we return. Welcome back. There is no doubt that 2023 was a big year with many stories filled with joy and heartbreak. Our British Columbia video journalist, Tina House, takes us on a look back at the year that was 2023 in her part of the country.
In early February, the late Gina Wojcik was honored at a celebration of life at the Musqueam Indian Band. The legendary hockey player, who was known as a fierce protector of his teammates, was remembered by his Vancouver Canucks alumni teammates, his family, and close friends, including Peter Leach.
You know, he was a true warrior. You know, he didn't see himself as a legend. He goes, I haven't earned that yet. He said, I'm not there like Brian Trottier, you know. But I said, no, man, today he's a true legend, without a doubt, you know, and I'm honored to say that.
Country star Aaron Pritchett honored Gina with a song to memorialize a man that came from humble beginnings and rose to be one of the first Indigenous and greatest hockey players in the NHL, meanwhile paving a way for others to follow.
Looking back on the memory of the dance we shared.
He loved the city of Vancouver. He loved his home kidding on ZB, and we're gonna miss him very deeply. But he's always gonna be in our hearts and our souls, and that number 29 forever.
And then the Maori All Blacks came to Vancouver to play in the Rugby Sevens. They were hosted at an event at the Tsleil-Waututh Nation.
I'm just happy we got the All Blacks here. You know, they're one of the most popular teams, and I know a lot of our community members were happy.
Isaiah Susadik, who also currently plays rugby, says it's a dream come true to meet his idols and hopes to go pro one day.
I can't wait to see what happens in the future here, and I'll be going for the national team.
Wanted to thank the people here, and just how similar we are, Māori and natives of this country. I spoke earlier about how in my culture we live off the land, we live off the water, and hearing the same things from your guys in was pretty good, just to make those type of connection.
The visit concluded with the All Blacks singing a song for the community. Murdered or missing Indigenous women and girls continue to disappear or be killed at an alarming rate across Canada, prompting thousands of people to continue marching and trying to raise awareness as grieving families search for answers. This year, TransLink, who operates the SkyTrain throughout the Lower Mainland that transports millions of people a day, unveiled huge billboards to get the word out. Natasha Harrison's daughter, Tatiana, is featured along with 13-year-old Noello Soup and Chelsea Poorman. All three were found deceased in what family members are saying are very suspicious circumstances. Natasha, how are you feeling right now seeing this?
It's sad that it has to come to this to try and raise awareness, but I'm so grateful for all the people and APTN and Butterflies in Spirit and everybody who's fought so hard to get these things up.
And Noello Soup's aunt, Josie August, says she's grateful for this campaign.
We're coming up almost a year after her remains have been discovered, and we're no closer to finding answers. And it's actually heartbreaking to know that your family member is on a justice for MMIWG.
Butterflies in Spirit is a dance group of MMIWG advocates who all represent a missing or murdered loved one. They performed at the event. This is our time. Thank you for being a part of this special look back at the year 2023 and some of the stories that we brought you. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Earlier this month, Leonard Marchand was appointed Chief Justice of British Columbia and Chief Justice of the Court of Appeal of Yukon. He is the first Indigenous person appointed to this office. Prior to his appointment, he was a judge of the Court of Appeal for British Columbia. Marchand is Syilx and a member of the Okanagan Indian Band. He joins us now. Welcome, Leonard. How does it feel to be appointed the first Indigenous Chief Justice in BC and the Yukon?
Thanks for asking. It feels great.
What inspired you to pursue a career in law?
Well, it wasn't a straight line for me. When I was a young person, I was pretty good in chemistry, math, and physics, and I grew up dreaming not about being a lawyer, but about becoming an engineer. I studied engineering at UBC in the 80s. When I graduated, I found work in the oil industry, and I worked in that industry for some years before realizing that the corporate mission of maximizing return to the shareholders wasn't really something that resonated with me personally. I thought about some different options, and I decided to return to law school because I thought, that I might be able to help people with legal problems and other issues in their lives. I often say that the best decision I made in my life was asking my wife to marry me, and the second best decision I made was going back to law school. It was a good choice then. It's been a very fulfilling career.
That's fantastic. Your father, Len Marchand, he was the first cabinet minister of Indigenous descent. What influence did he have on you and your career aspirations?
My father was a huge influence on me. He grew up in a time when there was legislated exclusion as well as legislated assimilation. So we had these laws like he wasn't permitted to vote in a federal election. He couldn't attend a public school. There were a lot of exclusions, but also there was the assimilationist policies of sending children to federal day schools, which my father attended, and as well residential schools, which my father also attended.
Wow.
Somehow he became a trailblazer. He came from a very good family. They weren't happy with him being away at residential school in Kamloops. They found a way to get federal funding for him to attend the public high school here in Vernon. He was put into a general, not academic program to start, but fortunately the people there realized that he was actually a pretty smart guy. He got into an academic program, went on to university, became involved in political movements like the North American Indian Brotherhood, fighting for things in the 50s and 60s like basic rights, including the right to vote, which was delivered in 1960, and he was elected to Parliament, first status Indian elected to Parliament in 1968, and then later he served in cabinet from 76 to 79. And he was always the person who believed in participating, being included, being at the table. He didn't always agree with government policies, but he felt that he could do more good, make more changes by being at the table and influencing outcomes. So I've, I would never compare myself to my father or try to measure up to the standards that he set, but he certainly led an inspirational life, and it inspired me and many, many other people.
Yeah, he sounds very inspirational. What would you say to other Indigenous people who may be considering a career in law?
Well, I think that law is critical. I mean, when you read, for example, the TRC report, I'm sure you have, you see that it's sort of ironic that the majority of the calls are in areas of education and law. And I say it's ironic because education and law were the primary tools of oppression, but the TRC sees those as being today, the way forward. So law structures so much about how we live in our society and how we exercise our rights. So having Indigenous people in the law is important, and there are a growing number of Indigenous law students, Indigenous lawyers, and Indigenous judges, and infusing Indigenous voices and Indigenous values into the justice system is a good thing, not just for Indigenous people, but for all people in Canada.
I have to agree with you there. That's all the time we have for today, but thank you so much for speaking with us.
Great to join you, Seth. Thanks so much for the interest.
Absolutely. We need to take a short break now, but coming up, one of the greatest space films ever made will be coming out with an Anishinaabe-Moan translation. More on that after the break. Welcome back. One of the most iconic films of all time will become more accessible to an Anishinaabe audience. A partnership announced today will see the creation of an official Anishinaabe-Moan, or Ojibway, version of Star Wars: A New Hope. The project is an alliance between the Dakota Ojibway Tribal Council, the University of Manitoba, and Disney Lucasfilm. This is a look at the poster art also released today. Script translation, auditions for Anishinaabe-Moan voice actors, and sound recording will take place in Winnipeg in 2024. Plans are to have a Winnipeg premiere, as well as showings at theaters across Canada, and the intent is for this version of the film to air on APTN. The announcement comes almost exactly 10 years after a Navajo language version of the classic film was released. Now, time for our photo of the day. Today's photo comes from APTN's social media editor, Jesse Andrushko. Jesse shared his Legos in honor of the news about an upcoming Ojibway version of Star Wars: A New Hope. Jesse says he is aware these characters don't appear in the Star Wars film, but he's excited nonetheless. If you want to be featured as our photo of the day, send your photos to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast.
It'll be 3 degrees in Charlottetown, 11 in Halifax, 4 in Nain, and 3 in Cartwright. It'll be -5 in Quebec City and 1 in Montreal, -1 in Toronto, -4 in North Bay, -5 in Timmins and -5 in Sudbury. Churchill will be a cold -21, God's Lake -16. Winnipeg will be -4 and Barons River -6. -2 in Regina and -3 in North Battleford. -12 in Stony Rapids and -11 in Buffalo Narrows. It'll be +1 in Fort McMurray, -4 in Peace River. It'll be +2 in Sunny with Clouds in Medicine Hat, +5 in Calgary. It'll be 10 in Vancouver and 4 in Bella Coola. -9 in Fort Nelson, -2 in Smithers. -21 in Old Crow and -18 in Dawson. -23 in Yellowknife, -15 in Norman Wells. -19 in Coolville Lake and -23 in Fort McPherson. -24 in Arviat and -25 in Cambridge Bay. -26 in Iqaluit and -22 in Resolute.
Athletes north of 60 are competing for a spot in one of the biggest sporting events in the Arctic next year. Our reporter, Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, has that story.
It's competition day for Arctic Winter Games hopefuls in Yellowknife. And for those cross-country skiers from the Saantu community of Rattay-le-Camp, Fort Good Hope, they are ready.
I'm a bit nervous by thinking my family. That they say, push yourself to your limit. When someone's in front of me, I'll be like, keep on going, like, I need to pass this person.
Isabel Manuel made the team last year. She's hoping to improve her time from yesterday, racing 10 kilometers in under 24 minutes, even with the technical downhill sections in the course.
So we're going downhill, but sometimes I crash.
What did you do when you crashed?
I get up, even the hard ones.
The games are a big deal for these 8 athletes from Fort Good Hope. They may not have groomed trails or even a long-standing history of having cross-country skiing teams. But according to coach Jillian Toback, these athletes are dedicated and fundraise for their accommodations, food, and ground transportation to be here.
They were skiing or working out in the gym for 4 nights a week. So 2 nights skiing, 2 nights working out, and then they had to do fundraising as well. Last year we were kind of figuring things out, let's see how we do, and it's nice to have an event to work toward, and then to compare like where we're at, like what's happening with other skiers.
Held every 2 years, it's the biggest sporting event north of 60. Around 2,000 athletes compete in the games from Alaska, Greenland, Sempi, Northern Alberta, Nunavik, Nunavut, NWT, and Yukon. Malachi Morin of Yellowknife says he's appreciative for the opportunity to hone in on his craft.
I get my coaches to videotape me so I can go back and practice that and work on getting better, and I watch these other people that I'm competing against that are older and better and stronger, and I kind of watch them to see what I can do better.
And it's not just about the sports. There's also cultural exchange, mentorship, and of course, pin trading.
Kind of got into that a bit more at Canada Games, and my pin collection has gotten quite a bit bigger, so I'm excited to work on that at Alaska.
Along with Yellowknife, trials are also happening in Dilo and Fort Simpson for Dene Games, and in Nunavik for Arctic sports. The games take place in Matsu and Anchorage, Alaska, March 10th to 16th, 2024. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
That's all the time we have for today. For news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Sav Jonesa. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.